Senator John McCAIN, Republican from Arizona, member of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. Sir, first, let me welcome you to New Day and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, I'm glad to be on, and congratulations on your new show. I'm sure you all will do very well despite your presence.
All right. Appreciate it, Senator. Always a pleasure to have you. Now, let me start here with immigration, okay? It
Sure.
seems that people see this issue one of two ways. Either reform is about keeping people out, or reform is about letting people in. Where do you see a chance for compromise here?
I think that, first of all, the legislation concerning beefed-up border security removes any validity to the argument that border security is not sufficient. I mean, this is not only sufficient, it is well over sufficient. We'll be the most militarized border since the fall of the Berlin Wall. So that's why I think this amendment was very important. Second of all, are we going to let a de facto amnesty of 11 million people living in the shadows in this country, or are we going to see a path forward? And that path forward is clearly one that gives people a legal status, but then a long, tough, hard road to citizenship. I mean, 10, 13 years, longer than I pay fines, pay back taxes, learn English, get in line behind everyone else. So this is a border security measure which I think should suffice to satisfy any critic, and it is a way forward, a tough way forward, so that we can resolve this and bring 11 million people out of the shadows.
All right, so it's going to take some more politicking there, Senator. Obviously, we all wish you well with that. People want this to move on. And let's move on to a different topic here that could be a real potential embarrassment for the country. What's going on with this Edward Snowden? Let me ask you, has anybody down there given you any good information about the U.S. knowing where this man is?
No, but it is well known that he's in Russia, and it's reminiscent of the days of the Cold War when you hear a Russian spokesman saying that he's not in Russia when every shred of evidence indicates that he is. Look, we've got to start dealing with Vladimir Putin in a realistic fashion for what he is. He's an old KGB colonel apparatchik that dreams of the days of the Russian Empire, and he continues to stick his thumb in our eye in a broad variety of ways. Most importantly to me, of course, and should be to the world, is their continued support of Bashar Assad and the massacre that's taking place in Syria, not to mention a number of other areas that Russia is basically showing us a total lack of respect. And by the way, this sends a message to the Iranians that they have to be wondering whether we are very serious about saying that they can't achieve a nuclear weapon status.
When you look at Hong Kong/China, when you look at Russia, doesn't this situation make America look weak, like we've lost our mojo?
It does, and when you withdraw to Fortress America, when you believe in light footprints, when you show the world you're leading from behind, these are the consequences of American leadership. As you know, I spent a lot of time in the Middle East. Every one of these leaders say, where is American leadership? Where is American leadership? We need to show more leadership, and that does not mean confrontation, but it means steadfast adherence to the principles that many presidents since the end of the Cold War and since before have stood for, that the rest of the world will respect.
Do you see this as a direct relation to President Obama's friendlier approach to foreign policy, that we have been made to look weak, like our resolve is not what it used to be?
I think what it shows that the United States says things and then they don't do things. And I guess the best example of that was the Syrian use of chemical weapons. The president said that was a, quote, game changer, that it would be unacceptable. And now what have we done? We're going to send light weapons to the freedom fighters there against tanks, helicopters, and Scud missiles. And so I think the problem is that most now, especially China and Russia, don't believe we're serious.
Where do you believe this all leads?
I think should lead to a reevaluation of our relations, particularly with Russia and China, a more realistic approach to two nations that are acting in their own spheres of influence in a provocative fashion. It means that we should stop this sequestration, which is decimating our military to an alarming degree, and we should carry out the promises and commitments that we make. And it doesn't mean threats, but it means that the United States is still the only nation in the world that the rest of the world can depend on. And China and Russia, both in their own way, are trying to assert spheres of influence which are not good for the things we stand for and we believe in.
What is your advice to the president? What do you think he should be doing right now?
The first thing I would do is go to the Oval Office and say, I've told Vladimir Putin that we want this guy back. He's broken American laws, and under every treaty and agreement that we have, he should be returned to the United States. On a larger scale, I would say we're not going to let Bashar Assad stay in power. That would be the greatest victory for Iran that could happen in 25 years, and we are going to stand by our allies, and we're going to help people who are struggling for freedom.
Last two questions. Do you think the U.S. gets Snowden back? Do you think that we have the juice to do that with our allies? And do you ever expect to see American boots on the ground in Syria?
Never do I expect American boots on the ground in Syria, except in a specific post-war case where we have to internationally go in and secure the caches of chemical weapons. I don't know whether they will respond or not. Putin's behavior has been with disdain or even contempt of the United States of America. So we'll have to see, but he has to understand, and we have to be serious, that this will affect our relations with Russia in a broad variety of ways, and that does not mean a return to the Cold War, but it means a very realistic approach to our relations with both of those countries.
After everything that's happened, did you think that in your lifetime you would see it happen again, where Russia and China seem to be aligned against the interests of the United States?
Yes, I did, because I have known about Vladimir Putin for a long, long time. He is, as I said, he's an old KGB colonel apparatchik that has disdain for democracy and the things we stand for and believe in. And if he sees a situation, he'll take advantage of it. I mean, anybody that takes somebody's Super Bowl ring has got to be not exactly like us.
An unsubstantiated allegation, though, Senator. We have to be clear. We don't know what happened with the ring, but, you know, it certainly is a little bit of window of perspective for you on this, I guess. Senator McCain, thank you very much for joining us on New Day. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. Congratulations.
Only John McCain. It's un-American, Senator. It's un-American.